Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Nahal Forest Wali and I'm thrilled to be here with all of you today. I'm joining from Karachi, Pakistan. Today we have a very special guest, someone who has made a significant impact in Denmark through her work. Her name is Miss K, and she is the founder and CEO of Career Denmark APS. Before we delve into our conversation, let's take a moment to extend a warm welcome to Miss Kat. Miss Kat, we are truly honored to have you here today. We are eager to learn more about your remarkable journey. You will be instrumental in assisting both internationals and organizations in Denmark with your valuable insights and guidance. So now, without further ado, let's begin our conversation. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fine. How are you, Manahil?
Alhamdulillah, I'm also fine. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me your precious time.
Yeah, of course, no worries.
All right, ma'am, please introduce yourself for my viewers.
Yes, my name is Kate Dahl. I am a career consultant for internationals in Denmark. It just means that I help those from abroad or who are already in Denmark to come to
Hello.
Denmark and how to get a position in Denmark. And and I do job search training. And I am an American who has been living in Denmark for about 8 years now, and I've lived abroad in Europe for a total of 15 years. And that's my story essentially, or a little bit about me.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your introduction. All right, my first question is, okay, what is the CAT DHLS background and experience prior to funding career Denmark APS?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I basically have personal and practical experience, and I have been training internationals now for about 3 years officially as a company. But before that, I was doing it as a volunteer basis previously 2 years, so about 5 years in total. And so I come from, I am just educated as a humanities major. And so basically, I volunteered and gained this experience and then became officially formed a company in 2020 and saw the methods and saw the results of what I do. And that's my experience with Career Denmark, essentially. So, yeah.
All right, that's great. Wonderful. So my next question is, how does CAT DHL experience and expertise set Career Denmark APS apart from other similar organizations?
Yeah. So basically, the difference is that, maybe to give some cultural context, because for example, in countries like in Pakistan or in India, recruitment is quite heavily based, and there's a lot of companies out there who promise you positions and so on. And so a lot of these companies are essentially scam. It's very, very difficult for you to come to Denmark as a non-EU citizen. It doesn't matter if you're American, Pakistan, India, or if you're from the Middle East. It is just really, really tough unless you get a job offer. And so the difference of what I do than other companies is that I teach how to talk to Danes in the cultural context. What I mean is not the Danish language itself. What I mean is, how do you communicate your value in Denmark to a Danish white person, for example, or someone who's been living in Denmark for a long time. And so what I do, for example, like I've seen a lot of CVs from Pakistan, for example, and I see that how it's being done cannot be applied to the Danish labor market. So what I teach is how to apply in these cultural contexts. How do you write the CV in this Danish cultural style, and how do you communicate it so that then it transpires and that they can actually understand you, even though we're speaking the same English language. It's about the cultural language that is the main difference. So that is what sets me apart from other organizations that isn't done before. And also a lot of companies as well, they might say that they have the experience, but they're not living in Denmark. And that's what I do, is that I've lived in Denmark, I've breathed Denmark, I have been here as a non-EU citizen for a long, long time now, worked with a lot of people from Pakistan and from India, for example. So I know that my methods work based on that. So yeah.
That's awesome. I like it. All right, my next question is, what unique insight does CAT DHLs bring to the table when it comes to bringing the gap between international job seekers and the Danish working environment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, really, what I try to do with bridging the gap between the international job seekers and the Danish working environment is to understand these different cultural nuances. Like, I'll give an example. There is a philosophy in Denmark called Jantelov, or Law of Jante. And it's a philosophy that is very much ingrained in Danish society, of this idea of not boasting or bragging. But the issue is that you do have to show your achievements in an application. So how do you go about that without boasting or bragging? So for example, I see a lot of times, for example, from those in Pakistan or India or wherever, where you would mention that you have a straight A or like 4.0 GPA. I don't 100% remember the educational system in Pakistan, but I know that they will mention the grades. And Denmark doesn't care if you, a lot of Danish employers, they don't care if you have top grades. Not all the time. I would say most of the time companies don't care. They just really care about what you can bring to them and what your skills and achievements are. So for example, if you talk too much about yourself, and if you talk too much about saying, I was number one in my class, especially if you're a newly graduate, that would be a turnoff for them, because they would not see you as being humble. So what you need to do is put it in a team context, because in Danish culture, teamwork is a very, very important part of building, just an important skill in general. And that they want to see. And so what I also try to convey is to show that, hey, I try to look at the language in this cultural context to find out, for example, if you're boasting and bragging. And that's one of the many unique insights that I'm able to give. And I hope that even with this knowledge can be very helpful for someone who is trying to get a job from Pakistan to Denmark. So yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your answer. My next question is, could you share any success stories or notable achievements of Career Denmark APS under CAT DHL's leadership?
Yeah. So, or for example, there's a lot of them. You can see a lot of the success stories on my LinkedIn profile. When you go on LinkedIn, you can see a lot of the recommendations. But one of the stories that I can tell you right now is that I remember just helping someone from abroad. Originally, they're from if I remember correctly, they were from Indian origin, and they were living in the United States, and they knew both how to do things in the Indian cultural context for the application and the American, but they wanted to transfer over into the pharmaceutical industry, or come to the pharmaceutical industry in Denmark, because in Copenhagen is very, very well known. It's considered like the pharmaceutical capital of Europe. So if you're in the pharmaceutical industry and want to come to Europe, Copenhagen could be a very good place for you, because there's companies like Novo Nordisk, Novozymes, etc. So what I did was help with the CV and translate it, and help them understand how to translate it so that then Danish employers would understand. And he landed a position in Novo Nordisk, actually. So that's one of the many, success stories that I've done. But you're also welcome, if anyone else needs references, you're also welcome to ask for those references. I've also helped quite a few people who have been here with spouses, because a lot of the times, like, there are, for example, expats who are recruited. It's still very hard to get into Denmark being recruited. It's possible. It's just a little bit tougher, but it's usually the spouses that have the harder time if you decide to come with your spouse. And I was also helping another client who get into a position in Billund and Lego, and had a very hard time. And then finally she was able to, after just a few months of training with her. So yeah, but there's like tons of stories like that you can also go to my website and on my LinkedIn profile, where you can see all the recommendations from that people who have vouched for me and the results. So.
All right, sure, ma'am. My next question is, how does Kat DHL's 8+ years of living in Denmark enhance her ability to guide others through the challenges of job hunting in the Danish context?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because I worked in Denmark for the first 5 years that I've been in Denmark. And what I did, because I have a humanities major in Germany, even though as an American, I knew that I couldn't use it really. So what I had to do is reinvent myself. I also help internationals abroad and helping them reinvent themselves for the Danish labor market of what is in demand. So if what you are in currently is not working for you, then I can help you make a plan. And that's what I did. So I reinvented myself. I looked at the Danish labor market, saw what was in demand, and said, okay, right now, sales is in demand right now. And so I went into the sales startup tech industry for about 5 years. And then basically every time I had a position, it was either because I had a temporary job or I got promoted, but then I lost the position due to a company merger or the change of strategy. Just being in the sales startup tech world as a woman in Denmark is quite competitive. And I have had 5 jobs within the 5 years, which is a lot. But I decided that when I started going into this, I saw a need for it. And when I was going and talking to my colleagues at my Danish courses, because by the way, when you come to Denmark, it's free for you to take Danish courses. It's paid for by the Danish government. So you can just, once you get your social security number in Denmark, you can just go to your Danish courses. And I saw in a lot of my Danish courses that I was telling my colleagues I was getting a job, or I lost a job and then I got a job. And then they asked me, like, what's your secret sauce, Kate? Why are you so good at getting positions in Denmark? Because I've been here for years. I have a PhD. I am a non-EU citizen. I can't get anything. So what are you doing right? So what I did essentially was start doing workshops and my talks and doing my trainings and seeing the results of that. So I can't teach people how to keep a job, but I can teach you how to get one. And that's also part of like what I do with the organizations that I'm working with, is helping the retention, because I can teach you how to get one, right? But I work and collaborate with others to help with the retention process. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. So yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your answer, for amazing answer. My next question is, in what ways does CAT DHLs help internationals understand?
Yeah. So when it comes, what I do to help internationals understand the Danish cultural context when it comes to job searching, is that I try to speak in the language that they could understand. It's not in directly, but it's a way where they can easily understand it. Like I tried to explain earlier about Yentalo, for example, and that is one of the many ways that I do try to simplify these kind of cultural nuances, or to give like, you know, another example to help internationals understand, or to even give like another tip here, is that when you have your CV, you have something in Denmark called a personal profile that you need to make. And it's 3-5 sentences. It's not very long, but it needs to be very concise and short to the point. And what I try to convey is, or to help internationals with, is to be able to understand why that is, and why is it that it needs to be this way, or why do you need to stress soft skills. I know in a lot of cultures, or for example, I see a lot of CVs, in Pakistan, where is soft skills is not so stressed. And the reason why soft skills is important in the Danish cultural context is because it's not always about your hard skills. It's very much about if your personality can fit into the company, which is really, really strange. It's a strange concept, but it's also about being liked in it, that if you can fit in that team. So that's one of the new many, just a few of the tips of what I mean is just trying to explain, this is what it is, and this is how it is. And so I try to simplify that in the cultural language that they're using, essentially. So yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your answer. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is, can you explain some of the key components of the comprehensive trainings and workshop offered by Career Denmark APS?
Yeah. So what I try to, so there's a difference, between my trainings with one-on-one and then when I do my workshops in Denmark. But what I try to do in Denmark is I try to do a lot more like interactive and group exercises, because it's very much part of Denmark, or at least in Danish culture. You need to learn how to network. Networking is very important in Denmark, and you need to build relationships. And that's what I try to do with my workshops, is that whether it's CV, LinkedIn profile, how to network, how to contact Danish companies for the job ad, I try to give interactive exercises so that then it's also about stressing the importance of team building, for example. And I would say that's one of the many key components within my workshops. But what I do with my one-on-one and individual training is that I tailor very much to the individual. I can do that a lot more than in a workshop. I'm able to say directly, this is the feedback. If you, with a workshop, you just talk about general information, right? You can't always have the time to tailor to everyone's CV, for example. And that's what I do with my individual trainings, is that I, give the written feedback, we meet online, and then if it's needed, then we do another written feedback in the end. So I really tailor and personalize the experience, also based on the industry, because I also give different advices from people from Pakistan than from India, or someone from the Middle East, or from someone in the United States. I would give very different advices because of the different, just because of the different cultural nuances that come in place. So I'm able to tailor that much more in a one-on-one training than within like a generalized workshop, right? Even though I try to tailor it within a workshop, looking at my audience, it's not as the same experience as a personalized training one-on-one. So.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your answer. Uh, my next question is very interesting because this is motivate. What motivate CAT DHS to start Career Denmark APS and provide training on job searching and adapting to the Danish working environment?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I was motivated to do this simply because I saw a need, and I really saw internationals here in Denmark that they were also very challenged. The spouses, especially, or international students, they were getting different guidance and different tips and tricks. Like, for example, one of the things I heard all the time with these professionals in Denmark or even abroad was that they would say to put your nationality in your CV. And for example, as an American, I found that astonishing in many ways, because they would say it's about your personality to show your personality, and that's why you need to put in your nationality. But the personality is not defined by your nationality. Every individual has their own personality. That's not like, it might be influenced by nationality and where you come from, sure, but that doesn't define you as a person. So I saw like problems like this that I totally disagree with and say that you shouldn't do. And I started to kind of like take these these small things and trying to, or these areas, and really trying to adapt and change it to give different advices, because I just saw that what was being told to internationals here wasn't working, and then saw that it was in Denmark based on the advices that I would give to internationals here in Denmark. And it's interesting because I would say within the last year, I'm working more and more with internationals who are non-EU citizens who are coming to Denmark. And it has slowly and organically become more like this. Because of course you want to have, well, like anyone else, you want to usually move to a different country to have a better life. Like, I come from a small town in the middle of nowhere my family is a Trump supporter and very conservative, and I wanted to get away from that. So and because my family was also struggling, I wanted to come to Europe to be in a better financial situation. And everyone moves to a country for different reasons and different for different motivations. And I'm seeing more and more that everyone that has similar motivations, and where we all have that in common. I think even for myself, I can relate to a lot of people coming from abroad, like from Pakistan, India, who want to come to Europe for a better life. But that's also why I do what I do, because I also want to educate people to understand that Europe is a continent. It's like, it's like me coming and saying like, oh, I want to move to Asia, and like, oh, I want to work in Asia. Well, Asia is like huge. I mean, Asia is like Pakistan, India, Thailand, Australia, well, not Australia, it's another continent. But what I mean, or Japan, China, you get the point. Like, my point is that if I were to say that I wanted to get a job in Asia to someone, there's a lot of cultures within Asia, and there's also different cultures. I mean, Pakistan is its own country, and India, it's its own country, right? So it's the same in Europe. And it's also important to understand that Europe has different countries and has different cultures, and there's different ways and methods in job searching. And so yes, there is the general way of getting a corporate job, etc., but it doesn't always work. And you also need to know who you're talking to. Are you talking to a Danish person, like Belgian person? Who are you talking to? And are you talking to a corporate or medium or small company? So I guess for me, the motivation is to generally help people, because I also really want to help people have a better life, because I also wanted to have a better life. So those are my motivations and why I do my trainings and what I do. So yeah.
That's great. All right. My last question is, how does Kat digital experience in the sales field contribute to her content role in helping international organizations?
Ooh, that's a really good question. With my sales experience, it also applies to job searching, that you simply have to sell yourself. That's just how it is. It's like, it doesn't matter where in the world. It doesn't matter if you're in Denmark or Germany or wherever. You simply need to sell yourself. And I know as a salesperson, I also knew how to sell myself. I mean, I also have worked for many different companies, and even for the one I was at a year and a half at, where I helped exceed a sales company revenue record. And I was the only salesperson in that startup company. They still never made as much money as when I worked there. So I've been told by my colleagues, or ex-colleagues at the time. But you still need to learn how to communicate. And that's what salespeople do. A good salesperson knows how to communicate their value. And good salespeople also know how to sell themselves, essentially. And that's what I do, is I bring the sales aspect as well as the cultural aspect into the job search, and basically saying this is how you sell yourself when you're job searching. Because even if you're an introvert, it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, or if you don't, even let's say you don't have sales experience, it doesn't matter. Everyone needs to learn soft sales skills to get a job. And that is how my experience helps contribute to helping internationals and organizations in job searching in Denmark. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your answer. And Hello, can you hear me?
You're breaking up a bit, but I can hear you sometimes.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the answer. Yeah. As our conversation with Miss Cat comes to close, I am truly inspired by her journey, her insight, and her dedication to helping international succeed in Danish job market. From her background in sales to her passion of for bringing cultural gaps, tell the story has provided us with valuable lessons and perspectives. Miss Cat, on behalf of myself and all our viewers, I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude for taking the time to share your experiences with us. Your commitment to assisting others in adapting to new working environment and your expertise in the Danish job landscape are truly commendable. To all our viewers, thank you for joining here from such an accomplished individual. Remember, learning people like Kat can offer us valuable guidance as we navigate our own career path. Please stay tuned for more insightful interviews in the future. Thank you so much, ma'am. Uh,
Thank you.
can you
And
hear me?
yes, I can hear you. I just want to say thank you so much. And I just wish you a great day ahead. And I hope that this podcast can bring some value to your audience. So,
Yeah, thank you. So, everyone, this is Manahil Forswali singing from Pakistan, wishing you all success and growth in your endeavors. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead. Bye.
thank you.